Hello everyone, Tom with Capo Fetish. Today on the channel, we're going to do a topic called Great Opening Tracks on Debut Albums from the 60s. This idea came about from a viewer a few weeks back mentioned you should do a video about, great opening tracks on debut albums. So I thought, well, that might be a pretty good idea. Maybe we can do a couple of decades. So I thought we'll start with the 60s today. I've got 20 debut albums from the 60s, 20 different tracks, 20 different artists. I'm going to start off here with a banger from 1969. I'm talking about the song Introduction from Chicago Transit Authority, of course, also known as Chicago. The track, written by Terry Kath, the guitarist, pretty much says everything you need to know about early Chicago in about 6 minutes long. Everything is there. The incredible horn arrangements, the absolute brilliant playing of Terry Kath. He sounds like in the company of like a Jimi Hendrix. I'm not comparing him to Jimi Hendrix, but he has that low tone, low register volume kind of guitar sound, really, really low and meaty. And even Hendrix lauded the guy, let's face it. He loved this first Chicago album. I think they played a couple shows together or so, but anyway, you got Robert Lamb on vocals and keyboards, you have Peter Cetera on bass and vocals, and you've got Terry Kath, who I think is the best singer at this point in the band, on lead vocals and guitar. He sings like an old blues guy. He's fantastic. Introduction, check it out if you haven't heard it. And this is quite a different Chicago than the If You Leave Me Now Chicago. So this came out in 1969. From the first Doors album, Break On Through. What an epic track, starting off an incredible discography, The Doors. So Break On Through was originally released as a single. It flopped. Later on, they released the Light My Fire single, the edited version. And of course, this album took off, became huge, and the Doors became legends. But what a band. Ray Manzarek on keyboards with his classical kind of playing. You've got Robbie Krieger in his flamenco guitar playing, John Densmore in his Elvin Jones jazz drumming style, and of course, Jim Morrison with his like Frank Sinatra voice. He can go from like a crooner to like a screamer in a millisecond. So Break On Through is just one of those, just of course, epic tunes from the 60s. Another great track that no one really talks about anymore. You never really hear it, even on like satellite stations. I'm talking about Whitebird from It's a Beautiful Day. This is their first album. An absolute gorgeous track with this mournful violin going on throughout. It's just great. And if you've never heard it, pull it up. But it's a track definitely you need to hear. It's one of those songs you need to hear before you die. So Whitebird, opening track on It's a Beautiful Day's debut album. One of the most important albums in the country rock formation back in the day, the late 60s. I'm talking about The Gilded Palace of Sin from the Burrito Brothers, Flying Burrito Brothers. The opening track is called Christine's Tune. She's a devil in disguise. You could see it in her eyes, featuring those really cool harmonies. They almost sound like the Everly Brothers on this track. Chris Hillman and Graham Parsons. There they are in their nudie suits. This is a very important album. This along with Sweetheart of the Rodeo for the formation of country rock. Every track on here is an absolute winner. I love Hot Burrito number 1 and 2. Hippie Boy is hysterical. Wheels, Juanita, Sin City. This must be included in every album collection. So the song opening track, Christine's Tune, fantastic. The opening track for just a phenomenal record. And I've got the US version here and the UK counterpart. I'm talking about Procol Harum's first album. Of course, the song A Wider Shade of Pale. But then there's the UK counterpart. And this opens with Conquistador, the studio version. I love both of these tracks, so either one is great. I'll probably take the American version just because I grew up on this, but Conquistador, years later, would become a top 5 single from the live with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra album. That live version hit the top 5 in 1972. Incredible, of all songs, you know. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the UK counterpart, opening track Conquistador, or opening track Wider Shade of Pale on the US version. Both phenomenal. A great band. Didn't sound like Jefferson Airplane or Moby Grape or, a lot of those bands from the San Francisco era. Quicksilver Messenger Service, a song called Pride of Man. Really great opening track. Really cool band. That's another great one. And then, of course, the debut from Love, the track, opening track, My Little Red Book, written by Hal David and Burt Bacharach. I guess they weren't too happy with Love's version, but there's something about everything Love touches just turns to gold. The way they do it, their way. There's that little bit of darkness in everything they do, but there's also a little bit of light appearing too now and then. I don't know. My Little Red Book, I just love Arthur Lee's vocals on this track, and it starts off just a fantastic debut album from Love, self-titled, 1966. In America, we grew up with the opening track on this album as being Purple Haze from Are You Experience, and that is an absolute revolutionary track. The UK counterpart, though, opens up with Foxy Lady. So what do you prefer, Foxy Lady or Purple Haze? Love them both, but I think I'd give it to Purple Haze on the American version. Another great act in the formation of country rock. I think you know what I'm talking about. And this is a great, just uplifting little opening to a great record. And I'm talking about What a Day from Poco's Picking Up the Pieces, a track written by Richie Furay. It's like the sun is just coming out, and it's just one of those just uplifting Beatlesque type tunes. And just a phenomenal record all the way through. If you never heard Poco's Picking Up the Pieces from 1969, check it out. They're fantastic. They should have been as big as the Eagles, or bigger than the Eagles, in my opinion. Another just phenomenal psychedelic opening track on the U.S. version of Mr. Fantasy by Traffic. I'm talking about Paper Sun, with lots of that. It sounds like fake sitar going on in there. It could be. And you've got some bongos, and you got Jim Capaldi doing his thing. But you also have the counterpart too on this one too, from the UK. This one right here. I think I prefer the song selection on this one better, because they throw in songs like Hole in My Shoe and a couple of different UK singles. But this is just as good. The UK counterpart, which is really the original version of this album, Mr. Fantasy, and the track called Heaven Is in Your Mind. God, I love that track. I think even Three Dog Night did a cover of that on their live album. But yeah, Heaven Is in Your Mind, I don't know. I think they're both equal for me, both of those opening tracks. Miss Laura Nyro, her first album, More Than a Discovery, later released a few years later as the first songs. They kept the artwork the same on this until years later. I'm talking about Wedding Bell Blues, the opening track, a song that was covered and made a huge hit out of from The Fifth Dimension a few years later on. An album just starting off with a set of songs just uniformly great. Lazy Susan, Stony Ann, which Barbra Streisand would cover. But I love Wedding Bell Blues. Everything Laura Nyro touches is magic. She's awesome. The opening track for the Electric Prunes debut album, I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night, another just revolutionary psychedelic number, another fave. Great opening track. Here's a song here that I really, at a point in my life, I just got tired of hearing. I couldn't hear it anymore. And then gradually over time, I started listening to it. And then I heard a live version from a bootleg copy of Woodstock. The whole set of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I heard the live version of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, and that's what got me back into the tune, because I couldn't believe how amazing that version was on that live Woodstock. But yeah, so side one, track one, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. It's I mean, however you slice it, it's a great track. And I love Stephen Still's guitar playing on it, and just all the different multi-parts going on and everything. And it really does showcase their amazing three-part harmonies going on. So Sweet Judy Blue Eyes from the debut from Crosby, Stills, and Nash. How about Hey Grandma from the debut from Moby Grape? We've got a 5-voice thing going on here. We've got 5-part harmonies, got 3 guitar attack. My only problem with this album is it's just a little tinty and a very, very trebly sounding. I'm still waiting for a remaster to come out. I think there's some legality problems why they've never been able to re-release this album. But if any album needs a re-release, it's this one with some really nice remastered sound. But Hey Grandma is a kick-ass opening track to a perfect album here. One of the great debut albums of all time. Moby Grape, 1967. I love the opening track on Fresh Cream, I Feel Free. I remember the first time I heard this song was on an Atlantic compilation when I was a child, and I just remember just being entranced by the song. That ba 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 da ba, the way it starts, and then it goes in the and all that part, and then it just kicks in with Ginger Baker's drums, and that incredible vocal from Jack Bruce. I think I Feel Free is just a kick-ass opening track, and this is off Cream's debut, Fresh Cream. Another great one is off probably the first known prog record. A lot of people think this is where it starts, and this is 21st Century Schizoid Man from King Crimson. What an incredible opening track. And it kind of stands in contrast with the rest of the album, because the rest of the album is very chill. It just comes on like hellfire, and then the album just kind of just progresses more just into just a chill vibe. But yeah, this is probably considered one of the first real prog records, and what an opening track that is. King Crimson, 21st Century Schizoid Man. The opening track for the first Lovin' Spoonful album, and a huge hit, Do You Believe in Magic? I Do. This is magic. The Lovin' Spoonful were and are magic. And this song just leads off an album of perfection. So that's another great one. Of course, we can't leave out the Fab Four. I Saw Her Standing There. Kicked off a whole new era of music, pop music, rock music. And a Paul McCartney song with a little bit of John. And when you think about it, their career started with a Paul song and it ended with a Paul song, with the end on Abbey Road. So book ended, their whole discography book ended by 2 Paul songs. I Saw Her Standing There, Beatles, from Please Please Me. When I first heard this album, or when I was going to get this album, I thought I was going to hear something a lot different than what I heard, especially off the top, like right when the record started. I'm like, this is what they're talking about? And I love this tune, but I just thought, this is what they're talking about, this band, this revolutionary band. This is back in 1983, I bought this album. And when I first heard this track, I'm like, wow, this is a gorgeous tune. Then, of course, the rest of the album was completely nothing like this. I'm talking about Sunday Morning by the Velvet Underground. Gorgeous kind of dream pop tune with some really nice, sweet vocals by Lou Reed. But the rest of the album just descends into just, decadence and debauchery. And that's why this album is so great. It's just full of different moods and styles. Nico singing on Femme Fatale and All Tomorrow's Parties just adds even more weight to this record. Everything sounds different. Every single track sounds different. From Heroin to There She Goes Again, Black Angel's Death Song. It's really, really, truly just a masterpiece of an album. The Velvet Underground and Nico, and the beautiful opening track, Sunday Morning. And then we can't leave out this. This is one of the most important tracks and sounds ever created. I'm talking about Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. Opening track to this perfect 5-star debut. Started off just so much influence for this band throughout the decades, whether it be Tom Petty or REM. Anybody who picked up a 12-string chimey guitar is indebted to the Byrds sound. And Mr. Tambourine Man, I think Mr. Tambourine Man came out the week I was born, so it holds dear to me in that way. And always love that song, and I'll never get tired of the Byrds. They're one of the greats. And the last one on the list is Fresh Garbage from the first Spirit album. Love this track. Has this kind of almost pre-Santana vibe about it, that kind of Latin jazz kind of thing going on. And I think it's even been sampled a few times, but Fresh Garbage is a really cool opener. And there you go. There are 20 60s debut openers from me. Why don't you throw some in the comment section for me to check out? And if you haven't subscribed already, just press that subscribe button. We'll talk to you soon, and I think next time we may do the 70s. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye.